Welcome everyone to this special webinar for World Immunization Week. This is a project of Hello Doctor in collaboration with the University of Santo Tomas, Faculty of Pharmacy. For today's topic, we will be focusing on vaccines and answering questions you've sent via our Facebook page. I'm Bianchi Mendoza, Managing Editor here at Hello Doctor, and our expert for today is Ms. Stephanie Nera, a registered pharmacist and Doctor of Pharmacy student at UST. She's also one of our writers and medical reviewers at Hello Doctor.
So hello, Bianchi and the rest of the Hello Doctor team. So thank you for that warm welcome, and thank you also for working with me on this project. Um, Unfortunately, my partner Mar will not be able to join today. However, she has contributed to the answers for some of these questions. So thanks
Nice.
for
Thank you for
having me.
being here today. Thank you for being here today, Steph. We really appreciate it. As you know at Hello Doctor, we want to make healthcare information accessible sa lahat. And so it's so important to take time to address yung mga questions sa mga loyal readers natin. So thank you everyone who've sent in your questions. Ayan, so let's jump right in. As we all know, there has been a lot of talk about vaccines lately, not just here in the Philippines, but around the world.
Yes, that is true. However, based on what I've been seeing, some of the things online are not so true. I mean, we can rely on the stuff that comes out from DOH or CDC, WHO, but sometimes you see things that are word of mouth that may or may not be true. So let's kind of let's talk about what's real and what's not. So that's why it's fitting that we're having this discussion today and some Q&A the for the World Immunization Week.
Exactly. All right, to start us off, could you please give us a background or parang refresher on what vaccines are and what they do?
Okay, so it's kind of hard to discuss vaccines um, very simple terms because it's very technical. But in simple terms, as best of my ability, a vaccine is a substance that is given to a person in order to stimulate antibody production. So usually it's an injection. However, some of them are actually through the mouth. For example, our polio vaccine. This is actually given as drops via mouth. Um, so antibodies are proteins from our immune system that our immune cells make when they detect a foreign substance, which are called antigens. So basically, these antigens are also proteins, and they provide clues for our immune cells to know what to attack when we are exposed to a certain pathogen or germ. So yeah, that's basically
So, in a way, the vaccine guides our immune system um, and what to attack, what to protect us from, basically. Thank
yes.
you. So, now let's take a look at some of the questions we have received from our readers regarding vaccines. So, for our first question, it comes from Jonah Marie. What are the possible side effects of a vaccine?
Okay. So this is in general for all vaccines. The risk of side effects are actually very low, like very rare. If ever you've had a vaccine, most of us have a vaccine actually ever since we were kids. Um, from what I remember, I didn't experience any side effects. However, common acute or short-term side effects are the injection site side effects, which are usually swelling or redness at the injection site. This usually goes away after a few hours to a few days. This is not really considered a side effect, but just the injection site reaction. However, when we talk about the actual vaccine side effects, usually you can feel a bit of pain or itching at the site, like as I mentioned. You can feel a little bit unwell, which can be like flu-like symptoms. You can feel a little bit tired or a little bit feverish. And some people experience headaches or joint pain, but again, as I mentioned, these are very rare or less common. But these are usually because our immune system is actually working. So in a way, when you feel a little bit of these side effects, it usually means your immune system is actually doing something. But also, if you don't feel any side effects, it doesn't mean that the vaccine is not working. Also, but
Okay.
basically that's it. Um, these usually go away after a few days. However, if you do experience a side effect and it bothers you and it lasts for more than 3 to 5 days, it's a good time to actually talk to your doctor because you may have an allergy to something in the vaccine. For example, there are certain vaccines that have albumin or egg products. So if you're allergic to chicken or eggs, you may get an adverse reaction here, or allergic reaction actually.
Okay.
So yes,
Okay, I see. So, it's important na wag po magpanic if you feel side effects of the vaccine because it often means, lalo na mild, like Stephanie mentioned, mga mild side effects na to, it means that the vaccine is actually working. But it's important po na kahit na wala naman tayong nararamdaman, not to worry if it's working or not. But may mga certain symptoms na severe symptoms that we need to consult our doctor like difficulty breathing, right, Steph,
yes,
and wheezing. Yeah. So it's important not to panic. Yun. So take note.
yes.
Let's take note of that. Our next question comes from William Alde. William wants to know, anytime po ba pwede magpabakuna? Kailan hindi dapat magpabakuna?
Okay. So again, in general, yes, anytime is okay to get the vaccine, except for if you already have the infection, because ideally we get the vaccine to prevent the infection. So if your body's already fighting the vaccine, fighting the infection, it's a little bit useless to get it while you're actively combating it. One reason is because our body's already making antibodies to the infection. So in a way, the vaccine, it would be doing the same thing. However, you can get the vaccine even after you got the infection, just for added protection. Um, so, as I mentioned, you should get the vaccine before you expect to be in contact with other people, especially if you're working in large, if you're going to a place with large crowds, or if you're working in a hospital, or if you're working in a school or attending school, because
Mhm.
you are coming in contact with a lot of people and you're not sure what diseases they may have or infections they may be carrying, because they can be asymptomatic or not showing symptoms.
Okay.
So ideally for this, you would want to set set an appointment with your doctor to get a vaccine. Unless there's a medical mission in your area with a vaccine drive, or currently like we have the COVID vaccines, most people signed up for it and their LGUs are providing the vaccine. So there.
Okay.
Um,
William has a
oh,
follow-up
yes.
question actually,
Mhm.
Steph. Ang mga side effects po ba hindi delikado sa mga seniors at mga bata o kabataan? Ano po ang sinasabing adverse effects? So, similar to the first question from Jonah.
Okay, so um, if we're going to talk about the COVID vaccine, this vaccine is not advised for anyone under 16 years old. So basically kids can't get this vaccine. But other vaccines are given to children. As all of us know that we've already received the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine or chickenpox vaccine. These are safe for children and actually encouraged for actually all children. Um, in general, the very young and the very old have a different immune system than healthy adults because they're more sensitive. Um, However, that doesn't mean that they should not get vaccines. However, their doctors actually have to like um, give them a full evaluation checkup to see if they're at risk for any adverse reactions or possible health risks. However, again, as I mentioned, the side effects are very mild and usually subside after a while. And it's important to note that although many people are scared of possible side effects of vaccines, the thing is that the diseases that these vaccines protect us against are more dangerous than the vaccines. So, having a slight fever for a few days is better than getting seriously ill with the actual disease. Um,
Agree.
yes,
And also for seniors, Steph, it's important to let their doctors know. Sabihin nila sa doctor nila yung preview, yung buong health history nila, especially if it's a new doctor. So
yes,
their doctor can help them best decide. In the case of the COVID vaccine, of course, we have um, the round of vaccinations for those with comorbidity. So that's also important to take note of and to disclose any illnesses that they haven't told their doctor or any healthcare professional.
yes.
So our next question comes from Ruby Fernandez Madrid. Ruby wants to know, recommended po ba ang mga current COVID-19 vaccines para sa mga buntis, lactating moms, or may planong magbuntis? Safe po ba ito?
Okay, so for this is actually a very good question. So thank you, Ruby, for this one. Um, First of all, the vaccines, any vaccine actually, is a personal choice. So nobody can force you to get a vaccine. However, of course, most mothers are very concerned about their health, not just for their own sake, but for their baby's sake. So getting this COVID vaccine actually is okay for pregnant women. So far from all the health authorities, the vaccine is actually okay. However, there's other vaccines that pregnant women should avoid, which are the live vaccines. Example would be the flu vaccine. It's because the immune system of a pregnant woman is a little bit different than when she's not pregnant or when compared to other healthy adults. So it's better to avoid the live vaccines. However, the COVID vaccine is not a live vaccine. So um, here we're safe. And in terms of breastfeeding, it should be okay as well. However, there have not been enough studies done because it's still fairly new. It takes a while for these studies to come out. But so far, studies have shown that women who were exposed to COVID before, this is not about the vaccine, but they were exposed to COVID before and they were able to recover. There have been studies that show that these antibodies can be passed through the breast milk. So in a way, the mother can offer protection to her baby. Whether or not this is the same with the vaccine is not yet fully understood, but it's possible. So a
That's
bottom
very
line, it is
yeah,
safe for pregnant mothers.
nice. And also for breastfeeding moms.
Yes.
So our next question sender is Carl Garcia. Carl wants to know, do the available vaccines work on the newer strains? Will they still work on possibly mutated variants in the future?
Okay. So I'm assuming this question is in terms of the COVID vaccine also. So this is
Mm,
actually a very good question, Carl. So thank you for asking. Currently, there's only a handful of new strains that have been detected. You may have heard the South African strain or the British
yeah.
strain. So these are just some examples. However, thankfully, these strains have not mutated to the point where they're completely different than the original strain of COVID. So because of this, the vaccine is still covering all of these variations. Um, However, the more people that get infected with COVID, even if they're asymptomatic, the more chance that this virus will continue to mutate and create new strains. So that is why getting the vaccine and also observing social distancing is very important for everybody. So yes, the faster that we can rid our populations of COVID, the faster we can get rid of these strains. Um, Additionally, I'll just mention that if we're going to talk about the older vaccines, these also work against newer strains that come out. Sometimes there's variations called wild types or wild strains. Um, Sometimes vaccines do not cover these. However, they do offer protection or reduce the symptoms. So even if you don't have 100% coverage, having this vaccine can actually minimize the side effects, the symptoms of the vaccine of the infection. So
And
yeah,
it also helps with control the severity if you get sick,
yes,
prevent severe symptoms. I think a lot of viewers will find this useful kasi na-notice ko sa Facebook page natin, marami nagtatanong similar questions actually because we see all these variants popping up and it can be alarming lalo na pagka yung vaccine natin we think it won't work. So it's good to know that we can still be protected against these new variants. So our next question comes from Dennis Wico.
okay,
Dennis wants to know. So Dennis says he's been reading about the incidence of blood clotting after some of the vaccines. Are we actually at risk once we get vaccinated?
okay. So I'm sure this is about the certain brand of COVID vaccine that
Yes, what
has
we
been in
can't
the
mention.
news. Yes,
Mhm.
yes. But according to the to a safety committee in Europe, where this vaccine is from,
Mm-hmm.
blood clots with low platelets are considered a very rare side effect of this particular vaccine brand. The exact cause is not known. However, it's considered to be a immune system reaction, which is normal, which is considered normal with other vaccines. However, of these cases of blood clotting, um, it was noted that majority of them were women under the age of 60 years old, and within 2 weeks of receiving the vaccine. So, which is interesting because actually women of this age group are actually more at risk of developing clots in the first place, especially if they're taking estrogen or hormone replacement therapy. So it's not confirmed yet if these are connected. However, it's also notable that women in this group can develop blood clots even without the vaccine. So that's important to note. Um, Also, coincidentally, one of the signs of severe COVID infection is blood clotting. So, according to a study done, the risk of blood clotting is 10 times higher with the actual COVID infection than the vaccine.
Mm.
So, if you weigh your options there, um,
Yeah.
yes, it's actually although the media kind of hypes up the side effect, actually the infection from COVID is actually worse, and not to mention you'll get pneumonia, possible long term or long haul infection. So it may also increase your chances of like long term health effects.
Complications. Yeah.
Yes.
And what kailangan natin i-contextualize rin like how many experiences side effects as opposed to those who don't experience side effects which we don't often see in the news.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's still safer to get vaccinated. Actually, the risks, 'di ba? If you weigh the risks, 'di ba? Vaccination is our best bet talaga. And then for the next question, also about the COVID vaccine. So as we can see, people are interested talaga. This is really the topic of
Mhm.
the moment. So Bianca wants to know, what if you receive COVID vaccine this month, then get another one, which is different brand in 6 months?
Mhm.
Would that be safe? So let's say you get one brand this month, and then 6 months later, yung second dose mo, or let's say, uulitin mo yung round of 2 doses ng COVID. Would that be okay?
Uh, from my standpoint here, actually, ideally you should get the same brand. This is because there may be a slight difference with the formulation of the vaccine. Although they all work to prevent or lessen the effects of COVID, their their way of approach is actually different. So some vaccines may be protein based. Some of them may have the RNA derivatives. So it may not have the same coverage if you use two separate um, brands. Um, so yes, and it's possible you may experience more side effects if you take two separate brands, and it will be harder to know which brand is the one causing you problems. So it's really better to take two doses of the same
of
vaccine.
the same of the same vaccine. And siguro kung emergency lang talaga if your first dose and your second dose hindi na available yung vaccine. Maybe that's okay, but it's still safer I guess to get the same brand. So
Um,
let's all remember that. Yeah.
to add on that one,
Yeah.
possible it's if there's hypothetically speaking, if you receive one brand but you for some reason cannot get the second one, and you have to get a different brand, most
Mm.
likely you'll have to take two doses of the second brand in the proper
Ah, okay.
interval.
Okay, I
Um,
see.
this happens with other vaccines. If you miss your dose after a certain point, you have to actually almost restart the immunization process because your body may not have made the right amount of antibodies.
Okay, I
So
see. Kumbaga, you have to get the maximum efficacy of the vaccine again. So you might have to repeat the 2 doses of a different vaccine. Okay, so that's important to know. Our final question comes from Rain Bunag. I've heard about the potential vaccine developed by a priest from UST. Are there any updates on that?
okay,
Because
yes.
it's in the
So
news
uh,
recently.
although I'm also from USC, I have never met the priest. His name is Nicanor Austriaco. Um, he's actually a researcher. So although the media likes to say that he's just a priest, he's actually a professional. He's a researcher. So he
Okay.
has been developing this potential vaccine. It looks promising, and it's attractive to. to our setting, because it's low cost and easy, it actually doesn't require a lot of refrigeration, which is actually an issue with some of the COVID vaccines. So apparently, this vaccine is going to be made from yeast, common yeast, like the one you use to bake bread with, and it will be oral instead of injectable. So this way, it's actually more accessible to a wider range of people. So, however, further news has not been released so far. I haven't seen any updates, but hopefully that this pans out and pushes through. Yeah,
That's
I really do
exciting.
hope that.
Yeah. So we'll wait for updates on that. So thank you so much for that, Stephanie. We really learned a lot today. We actually received some more very interesting questions, but we won't be able to answer them at this time.
Oh, okay. So I feel like I've addressed most of the major frequently asked questions. Um, there's also several other articles that we have on Hello Doctor that actually covers some of these questions. So if you're interested in reading them, you can just follow our Facebook page or go to our website and read more about immunization and vaccines.
Yes, that's correct. So we encourage all of you watching this to visit our website, hellodoctor.com.ph, and follow our updates on Facebook for our latest health and wellness articles, not just on vaccines, but on a wide variety of topics ranging from heart health, meron din kaming parenting articles, pregnancy articles, mental health, at marami pa pong iba. So feel free to comment and send us messages about this webinar or other topics you're interested in learning more about. So thank you, Stephanie, for sharing your knowledge with us on this very important topic.
I'm really thankful for this opportunity on behalf of UST Faculty of Pharmacy and also Hello Doctor. Thank you for moderating today, Bianchi. And also special mention to Drew and Koi for setting up this as well.
Thank
I
you,
hope
guys.
our viewers were able to better understand vaccines and that they're encouraged to talk to their doctors and other healthcare professionals.
Thank you, everyone, for watching this video, and we hope that you all continue to stay safe and healthy. Mag-ingat ho tayong lahat. Until next time.